Hello everyone, Marco Montemagno here, the Tech Alchemist, and here with me a good friend of mine, Augusto Marietti, co-founder of Mashape. Hi Augusto, how are you going?
Ciao, hi.
So, my idea today with you was try to talk about this magic word of API. Everyone talking about API now, but I'm fully convinced that 99% of business, traditional business, of course, they still don't get it. Probably because it's not
Yeah,
so clear what it's all about, what the opportunities.
yeah,
So I would like to go a little bit deeper in this API word, and then I have tons of things and questions to ask you about yourself and vision
yeah.
of the future and so on. So first, where are you located now?
Now in San Francisco,
All right, great.
in
And
South Park.
by the way, Meshape, three founders, two founders, three founders.
Yeah, three
Yeah,
founders.
okay, three founders, and
Marco and Michele and me.
excellent. And you got funded last year. I just don't remember exactly when, but I think it was last year, something like
Yeah,
that.
we had the first angel round in 2010, 2 years ago, and then a seed round last year that was closed in August.
All right. And by the way, the round for people who doesn't know Meshape, just go and check Meshape, and you'll see the round was with excellent investors. I mean, Jeff Bezos and other guys like that.
Yep.
So, Augusto, let's try to go straight to this API topic. Okay, so first of all, when you say API, I mean, what is all about explained to a human being and not to a tech coder that obviously knows what it's all about. But if you should say, okay, API, we're talking about that.
So, first example, the API, it's actually already always existed in information technologies. So the problem in this new revolution of APIs is that we're talking about cloud APIs. So it means APIs that run over the internet and they run in the cloud. So they distribute services, data, whatever. But API as a concept already existed. A simple example could be Windows 95 when it came out. They already had APIs, but it was like the not on the cloud. But for example, if Skype, the Skype that we are all using, use the Windows APIs to actually build on top of Windows, right? But those are the old way of APIs, but they already always exist in information technology. This new wave is actually cloud APIs, so it's a completely new distinction because there is a server somewhere and there is the client another part, and then they ping the server worldwide, wherever it is, to access content and data and services. And those are the new revolutions of cloud API. So technically, APIs means application programming interface, so the interface where I can program an application or whatever. In simple words, it's like a Lego box. It's like a Lego, or a puzzle. So the API is just a piece of the Lego, a piece of the puzzle, and you can use the Lego you want to build your construction, right? Your project. So for example, you want to build an application on the iPhone and you need SMS notifications for some actions. You don't want to build all your entire SMS infrastructure inside your application on time or 2 or 3 engineers. What you can do is you go out and you look for an API that actually can send SMS for you. So you search this API, you integrate this SMS component API into your project, and then in a couple of minutes, you can basically have an entire SMS infrastructure into your app and send SMS notification or push notification without reinventing the wheel on your own. And that's actually the advantage, because it basically pushed down cost and time as well. And small team are able to create amazing thing way faster and way cheaper because of the API. AWS is probably Amazon is probably one of the biggest example that people don't have to go out and buy and build server and keep them in their house, in their office, and they spend a huge amount of money to manage this real physical infrastructure. That just go to Amazon and via APIs, they have storage, they have EC2, they have bandwidth, they have everything through APIs.
Excellent. So basically, you just choose the features that you want, the Lego blocks that you would like to add to your to your service, and then you just get it and you include it in your offer. One thing, I'm starting really at the basic level. So imagine that there is a company, and this company say, okay, I get it. I've been watching Augusto Marietti explaining the topic, and I think that I will go for it. I will build an API. Today, to build an API is still developer stuff, is coding stuff, a lot of coding, or is possible for human beings, for companies to create, to develop their API the same way they can open a blog, or they can have, I don't know, their own social network, or features that once they've been requiring a lot of coding. How is the situation at the moment?
So there are coming out a couple, 2, 3 tools that allows you to basically have an API. If you upload your code base, they generate an API on top of that. They're pretty at the region, so they're not really trustable 100%. But the reality is that the developers that wrote the code of your app also is the guy that is gonna publish or have an API on top of that. So it's pretty technically to publish and create APIs. It's actually part of the code. If you create a code, you just the concept of API is actually that there are, for example, SOAP APIs, the old way, the enterprise, and now there's the RESTful API, which is a more simple way to developers to access those services and those data. And the idea of the API is that they are stateless. So what does it mean that they work once you have an API? And why you build an API? You build an API because you want to reach as much people as possible. An API is actually shapeless. So you can use an API if you're building an iPhone app, an iPad app, or a TV application into Google TV, or a website, right? So the powerful APIs that you build once and they go everywhere, and they can be used for every scenario because they're just the fastest way to transfer data and services now in the world. It's like the vein of your body, right? They transport the blood, and your blood could be your services or your data in a very fast, quickly, easy way, wherever the content is gonna be, mobile, not mobile, TV, whatever. So that's why they're building that, because it's way cheaper instead of reinventing the wheel and do something from scratch and custom for the iPhone and for the iPad or whatever. There need to be a really big distinction between private APIs and public APIs. So private APIs, it's APIs that you use internally. So for example, when people say there are 1 million of mobile applications, so let's say iPhone and Android, for example, that means that there are 1 million private APIs behind that. So that's the underlying architecture. And some of them are also public. Public means that third-party developers can access them and use them. Private means that only the company or the partner you want to. So for example, Netflix, which is Europe is not there yet, but it's basically distribute on demand.
I think it's coming, by the way, in 1 month. Should come.
Good. It's basically driving on demand film and movies through your TV, through the internet, through the AP. They distribute all this via APIs in more than 260 devices worldwide, all through APIs. And they have a private API, which is basically the ones they use internally, the team, a partner API, which is kind of private and public, so they give access only to big companies like Apple when they do the Apple TV, Google when they do Google TV, so they can have a better relationship. And then they have the completely public one for the long tail of developers that can be on top of that. But bear in mind that nowadays the way you build software is changing and is becoming API centric. So the first things you build as a software engineer, it's an API, private, and then on top of that you build the clients on iPhone, on iPad, on the website. But the first things really that you build is the core, the code base, and then the private API. And then obviously you can integrate third-party APIs into your product to get done faster. But the first things you have, it's an API.
How about, okay, if you have to use APIs from other companies, fine. You just go there and you choose. You did the example of, I don't know, phone API, and I'm thinking about Twilio, for instance. So there are companies that give you this service. So all the infrastructure is on their own cost and is their problem. That's it. You just use their information and you just create your stuff. How about if I'm a company and I want to develop my own API? I mean, what kind of infrastructure do we have to build? Is something massive, monumental, or is something that I can handle in an easier way? Because I think a lot of companies have the fear to build their own API because they will say, okay, how can I handle then all the requests and so on? So what's the situation at the moment for you?
So yeah, so building an API it's actually now pretty quickly, just RESTful or JSON. But the problem is all the rest. So as you say, the entire infrastructure that you want to build on top of that when you decide to make it public, because you need to have permission, you need to authenticate developer, you need to limit developer, analyze with analytics developer. So there start to be a lot of things that you need to publish your API to be sure that works well with the security and things. So all these things you don't have to build them. You can actually access third-party companies that have this already done for you, and then use adopt that, and then you can be up and running pretty quickly without adding resources or engineers that build in this type boring infrastructure to make an API public in the good way. And Mashape is one of those, for example.
All right. Can you give us more examples, real life examples of where can I use an API, for what can I use an API, and maybe also if you think that there are area, sectors, industry where you wouldn't recommend to use an API, if any.
Yeah, so for example, there are coming APIs in every sector, in every market, Hilton, for example. So even Starbucks, even companies that are not related with technology directly are now publishing APIs. An example of an API that just, for example, there's one coming out which is called easypost.co. And it allows you through simple APIs to send package worldwide. So it basically builds this API on top of the complicated infrastructure of UPS, FedEx. They use their old APIs. On top of that, they've made EasyPost API, which is pretty simple. And so every time a developer, for example, has a marketplace, you need to ship things, has built a product where there are shipments included, he uses this API, which automatically, once an order is placed, he's automatically send the request EasyPost API about the content of the package, the weight, where it's going to be, and the cost that you want to buy. You can compare between UPS, FedEx, DHL, and then this API take care of it and send the package by the price required to have this shipped 3 days, 10 days, and then done. So you don't have to deal as an owner of, let's say, this marketplace to all the shipping process. You just use this API and you integrate into your project, and once an order need to be shipped, that API does all the rest. And that's amazing, right? Because you can really cache down the things.
Unbelievable. And what does Hilton does? Which kind of API can Hilton use? I mean, for
data, and they're using more as a partner API. So they don't have a public API, but they have public, because private APIs help you in dropping down the cost of your development. So they have iPhone app, iPad app, and behind all these apps they have an API behind that. Where we should not use an API, it's probably in the bank system, because the security is not. I mean, banks are obsessed with protecting some data that would never be on the cloud for a lot of reasons. So there will be always some part of the world that will not. But that's not really about an API problem. It's more about a cloud computing problem. Because all the things that would not be accessible via cloud computing for security reasons, and I think banks or government, some data from the government are one example, will also not be able to use it by APIs because of the same reason. Actually, the government, it's now in the US, it's opening out a lot of APIs, and they are publishing more than 100 APIs in the next years to basically distribute all data. So like you want to see the crime in a particular city, you access all this data through the APIs. The Minister of Finance do the same, of economies do the same things, opening up all this data about economies in the United States, and you can go back in the history and access all this data. Agriculture problem, like you can see everything through. So the government is opening all these APIs. In the next years.
Last week, Augusto, a friend of mine, exactly on this topic, we were talking about this API, and this friend of mine, he works in an ice cream shop, okay? So he doesn't know anything about tech or API. And I said, yeah, because for instance, you can access, all this data with this API. And he said, yeah, but what's the difference if they use this thing that you are talking to me about, or if they just upload a PDF or Excel file? So what's the difference? And I give you back. For me, the difference is obviously monumental, but I want to give you back the technical answer.
Yeah, it's the structure of the data, right? Well, wait. If you are a consumer, or you always use the PDF or Excel or whatever. What we're talking here is targeting developers and organizations that need to have software somewhere. So for a developer, so for an engineer, having an Excel, it needs to download the Excel, structure the data, put in the database, analyze the things, evaluate. So it's really actually take the PDF structure and put in a developer structure into there. And it takes a lot. In the API, it's just an API call, right? The data are already structured the way you want it. So developers love JSON which is a format to transfer data, and they love JSON as a format. And the API is RESTful. The simple way, just that. It's just selling and distributing data and services through JSON. So it's developer language, and they can just make a call and retrieve all the data the way they want to. Also, the API, in the API way, the data are still owned by the provider in the server of the provider. I just make the call when I want the data. So access is more important than ownership nowadays, right? And I think also Airbnb is a real example of that access is more important than ownership. And the same thing to the APIs. In the Excel, in the PDF, once I download the PDF, I also own the data, and I need to manage and maintain this data into my data. And that's all about. It's about APIs. Like in SMS, it's not only about that I can use an SMS API and be up and running quickly, but also it's because I don't have to maintain that part of my product, because there's another company doing that, focusing on that, like a craftsman, industry, a cottage industry. They really care about that things, doing really well one things, and I do my thing, my 10% code really well without creating and managing all these other third-party components and services, because they do that for me. So also managing is important.
Let's talk about the cost, and in this way we can also go deep in Mashape. I mean, first of all, Mashape is an API, cloud API marketplace, so where you can put your API out there, or you can find an API. So it's very useful in my opinion, and because it gives a solution, a very simple one place where you find all APIs, and you can move in this world much easier. So guys, just go Mashape and have a look. How about the cost? I mean, are companies now charging for using their public APIs? On Mashape, do you see, I don't know, only free APIs, or APIs that are sold, the access is sold? Can you elaborate on this topic of the cost? Because I think there is an idea that all those protocols are just free, and you just access, and that's it. You do what you want, a little bit in a chaotic way, when it's not really like that.
Yeah, so when you decide to open an API or give an API to a partner, obviously if it's private, it's always free because you use it. But when you decide to open it, you can keep an API free, and there are some reasons to do that. Or you can add a paid usage model on top of your API. It depends on the API itself. In the last, I think, 5-6 years, we have seen a focus on opening APIs, and now we are entering in a way where it's monetizing APIs. And Mashape helps really well in that, because it allows you to monetize your API in 3 clicks and accept money now. I also have a community and a marketplace to do that. So this is what we're believing in, that if it's something has value, we will never give it for free forever. So at one point we start to charge for it. So now we are entering in a wave that people are going to charge for APIs, and there are a really good example of that. So there are actually three different kinds of APIs. There are APIs cloud that has infrastructure as a service, like Twilio. So I provide you an infrastructure, like in this case SMS. There are data APIs that they just distribute data, like the government APIs, right? The crime in San Francisco, in New York, do comparison and things like that. And then there are platform APIs, which is basically Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare, where they use the API as a strategy to leverage third-party developers to build applications and services on top of Facebook, on top of Twitter, to basically increase the distribution of the Facebook itself, and also reach the Facebook community by third-party applications, right? So there are three different kind of APIs. What we're focusing now is more on the first two, so like direct selling of data and services, and not on the third ones like Twitter, Facebook, Foursquare, because Twitter, Facebook, Foursquare, because in this APIs there is revenue, but it's not direct revenue. So like when Zynga deploy and build games on top of Facebook, there is not real clear transaction revenue, but there is as a collateral aspect when people buy credit or Facebook credit to play Farmville. And all that is happening through the Facebook API, but it's not really for us simple to mark that. So instead of Twilio, it's pretty simple, because Twilio is to say, okay, you pay 1 cent per SMS that you send through us or using our infrastructure. And that's pretty simple. Or data, that most of the databases are free, but some of them are paid, like, okay, the unit could be data points. Every time you retrieve 100 data points, it's $10. So this is more clearly simple to monetize. In our marketplace, the majority are private APIs, like in the world. There are a set of public API, and of that set of public API, there are API with a business model, with a revenue generated, and they charge, like for example, there is a face recognition API. So if you want to do an iPhone app and you need some face recognition, sentimental analysis, you search through us, because we're not just a director. So you search an API and actually you consume that API through us, and you pay through us. So it's entire one stop to do everything you want to do: search, consume, pay, analyze, everything in one place from a consumer standpoint. And so there are this face recognition. The way they charge, do not charge per API code, because the unit in the API world is always API codes. I have many codes, which means how many times, like if I'm using an API, how many times I ping that server, that's an API code. And in API code, there can be a lot of objects. So in the face recognition, the object they charge for, it's face recognized, not API codes. So every time I recognize a face, that's enough. And they charge like $10, I guess, for 50,000 face recognizer per month. And then if you want more, you can upgrade. They have different plans. In an API world, you have pay as you go, so like SMS, 1 cent per SMS, or in a bundle where you have subscription mode, where you pay an amount per month, and you have included an amount of face recognized API codes per month.
Well, Augusto, what's the best advice? What's your top recommendation to a company who wanna approach this API world, but still, that they have to start and they have to start from scratch? What would you recommend? What's your best tip? What's the right guideline to follow, in your opinion?
There is a lot of the problem about doing RESTful API is that it's not like where there were like a clear path to follow, but everyone does his own interpretation somehow of RESTful API. So my suggestion is just to go and read as much documentation as possible, like Googling and things on how you build RESTful APIs, and then you get a pretty good knowledge in a couple of days. And then you start to design APIs, and at that point, probably also, as a Mashape, we provide an API doc editor, which kind of force you to design the APIs the right way. So using that, you don't only get the advantage of having pipeline libraries, distribute APIs, but also get the advantage that you force yourself to build a RESTful API, because it's drive you to the not the best API in the world, but as much possible as REST as possible.
Right. Super. Augusto, how did you get the idea? Because talking now 2012 about these APIs, great. We're here to explain what it's all about, but for the tech community, the tech world, okay, this is, API is a matter of fact. It exists, and this is the direction. But when you started, I remember no one really understood what was all about. So how did you came up with this idea?
It was a vision, right? Well, we had a lot of problems in the early days explaining what we're doing, because when we're saying we are the app store of APIs, we're a marketplace for APIs in early 2010, people were saying, like, what you mean? Like, an API can be sold, right? Because at the time they were thinking about those APIs of programming language APIs of Windows 95, not the cloud APIs and revolution of it. They were already Twilio, but there were like few engineers knew about it. This kind of APIs and the concept. Unfortunately, mobile drove all the entire API revolution, the entire growth because of mobile. Because as I told you, every new app's on iPhone, it means that behind that there is an API. So that's actually was particular. But like, we came ideas are actually it was a pivot and iteration from another product. And the other product, where I don't know if you know, it was like Yahoo Pipes, where you have to assemble and combine different components together. We also had a graphical layer, so we will allow you to drag and drop component function and user interface to create your own app. But to do that, we were wrapping all other existing APIs at the time, and then once we discovered the explosion of APIs, and we decided, oh shit, like there will be thousands, millions, and we need to create a kind of a unify all this mess and create this marketplace in this app. So it was an idea that came out from another idea, and it took a lot of months on iteration to arrive at the right point. But this vision of having a marketplace for APIs, which is even ahead of it, so it's not only opening up APIs, having it, but also monetizing it, which is the next step. This is also the revolution that we are trying to do, and actually we are creating the market as they are one and only that lets you monetize API that quickly. Yeah, it was very hard 2 years ago to explain that, because people would say, what do you mean, like you can't sell an API? And now it's way easier. People get way more because of this explosion of infrastructure as a service, like SendGrid to send email. If you want to do your email infrastructure, you use SendGrid to send email.
How was getting funded for this idea? Because it looks easy, and you just say, okay. Many guests at the Tech Alchemist, they may be from Silicon Valley, Seattle. They very well inside the network environment. You started from Italy, which is not really Silicon Valley. It's not exactly the same. And but then you had a great story. You went there and you did it by yourself. So how was the path to arrive there? I mean, you just arrived there and say, hey, hi guys, we have this idea, and someone came. How did you find your way in this couple of years?
Yeah, so I think when I came in Silicon Valley the first time in 2008 at the Stanford Entrepreneurship Week. It was February, and actually that was the first time I feel like for a week put my head into the system, and it's so well how powerful our things are here. I say wow, and then I came back to Italy, and then we started to for 2 years trying to raise funding of the original idea of the Mashape platform, that at that kind of stage you actually don't invest in the idea, you invest in the people, right? The sooner you invest, the more you invest in people. Because like if you like, let's say if you invest in Airbnb 3 years ago, you were investing in people. If you invest in Airbnb now, even if you take out all the founders and you put other CEOs and other founders, the product is already running and it goes wherever it goes, right? You may be a little bit lower, but it's gone, it's going. Now you're investing in Airbnb as a business, not anymore in the people after all. So that's the thing, and we have this serious problem in Italy in raising funding because the team, originally was only me and Marco, and then Mike also came in later. But the problem was the team. They were too young. We were 20 years old, and they didn't want to fund a 20 years old team with no experience at all. I was trying to explain that having no experience is good because nobody tell you how to do things, so you can invent your own way, and most of the time it's a better way. And that's actually was the problem. So in 2010, I saw the Silicon Valley powerful, which I can summarize Silicon Valley in one word, which I can speed. Everything happened so fast, from raising funding to partnership to business to growing. I think speed is the right word to define Silicon Valley. And then in Italy, everything happened so slow. But it's not an Italy problem; it's a European problem. And then we moved here, and then this original team of YouTube, which was the first guys that gave us a couple hundred grants, with also one investor from Italy, Israeli, because he actually, the way we found his, we didn't make it before we were 3 years in Italy. We made him in San Francisco in 2010 when we were raising funding from these guys, but we were sleeping on the floor basically in a house with mattress and hair mattress. So the YouTube guys saw the commitment of three desperate and basically came here to find the dream, and they saw the commitment and they invested in the team, right? And then also when that Italian guys came in, he invested in the team, uh, and because he saw just Italian guys there, so it was like an investment in the team, and actually a little bit of the idea, but it's always about the team at that stage. In the seed round a year later, it's more of a mix where you have perfection the idea, the team grew, and at that time invest in both team and product. And over time, the Series A, you still invest a little bit more in the team and in the product as well. And in the Series B, you probably invest mostly in the product.
Well, we have a few minutes more, Augusto, but after that you told me you were the first person telling me about Airbnb. And Airbnb,
Yeah.
just guys, if you don't know Airbnb, just go out there and check Airbnb, and it's now is a massive business. But you were the first one to telling me about Airbnb, and in beginning I thought, well, come on, this will be probably we'll go nowhere, you know.
That's what the investor um, told them in 2009 when they're trying to do fundraising. Sorry, in late 2008 when they're trying to do fundraising. They say, no one is gonna stay in a house of people that don't know about it.
Yeah, and now it's going great. So after that moment, every time that you say, oh, maybe have a look at this startup or website, I immediately go to check. So do you see if you have, I don't know, your favorite 3 startups of the moment? Is there anything interesting that you see for people doing tech digital business, some cool website, cool app, cool startups to have a look?
I don't know about 3. I mean, I'm personally invested in a startup here in Silicon Valley from Y Combinator, which I think can become really big and disrupt eBay, which is basically like Craigslist but mobile. And that's simple. You take a picture of the object you want to sell, and you sell it, localize it via the iPhone app, and then other people can browse items to the location and go pick up and buy the items through the iPhone app. So it's called a yard sale, getyardsale.com. So it's like take a picture and sell in 20 seconds and you buy in 20 seconds on a phone with an amazing user experience like Apple style. So it completely disrupts Craigslist business and eventually they grow up. This is something that I would keep an eye on.
Get yard sale.
But like other consumer things that now in Silicon Valley, a lot of investors are coming back to their roots, and it's harder now to invest in a finance consumer product because of the IPO market and because there's not a clear path. Instead, money are going back to finance enterprise companies and business companies in a way faster and powerful way. I would bet on Box. It's an amazing company. Aaron Lee, it's an amazing leader. I would bet on Box. Box is going to be a huge company over the years. They just started.
Okay. And tools that you absolutely would recommend for people doing business online, tools, I don't know, for promoting your business online. By the way, something that you had to do, but probably your target was more developers or promoting through developers.
Yeah.
Are there any tools that you say, gosh, if you do some digital business, you have to use these tools for your productivity, for your promotion? Are there any particular Augusto's favorite tools that you could recommend?
Well, Mixpanel should be used because it's like a Google Analytics but for real-time event tracking. Optimizely to do A/B testing in a simple way. So we're really obsessed with data and metrics, and so we use a lot of those things. I don't know about marketing or outbound tools. I prefer to do manually those things that using software. But yeah, Mixpanel is something that everyone should use to track their metrics. This also works for mobile apps. So they also have Mixpanel mobile to track mobile usage on top of your app and tracks every event you wanna track for. Oh, another thing that came idea we're using now, it's Instacart. It's only in San Francisco, so it's gonna be developed very slowly because of location problem. But Instacart, basically, I open my iPhone, I browse a list of like grocery things. It's attached with Safeway, and I think I want latte, I want milk, I want sandwich, I want the meat, and how many pieces? Two, three, four, cornflakes, whatever it's in the grocery. I can usually browse like a Pinterest way with all the things, and then I can order, and the guy came at the door and bring me with just $9. Not so I pay whatever I want to pay. The flat rate is $9 per order, and whatever, no matter how much I order, and he brings me all the things at my door in less than 2 hours.
Cool, cool. I was thinking when will come in Italy. You know, probably never because they will steal the milk before he is coming in.
Sure.
All right. Last question, Augusto. Just try to open your crystal magic ball and tell us what will happen in the next couple of years in your sector. I mean, API will be everywhere. It will be a totally connected world. Is any particular direction that you see that you say that's will happen for sure?
Yeah, it's the software going everywhere, and then APIs as well. But it's probably driven by APIs because as I told you, they cut down costs in distributing software in different platforms, different objects. Really simple because you need just one API to distribute in every other apps, even in a fridge. You need just the same API that you use to distribute your content in iPhone. You can use this API to distribute content in a fridge. So I think that the invasion of software in every corner of your life is what's happening in the next 5 years. So mobile will not be only the mobile, the phone, the iPad, but the mobile will be also your car, which is also some mobile thing. So everything is going to be in every aspect of your life, and software is going to be and apps are going to be everywhere.
Super.
I think we're just getting started with this.
Okay, Augusto. Thanks a lot, Augusto Marietti, co-founder of Mashape, and good luck keeping in touch for everything.
Thanks, Marco. Thanks. Ciao.